Hello friends, welcome to Next Gen Learning. Hope everyone is doing good. Part 1 video we saw how to flash the Raspbian OS, and this would be a part 2 where we'll see how to connect to the Raspberry Pi OS without monitor. We have completed the flash process of the Raspbian Pi OS into the micro SD card. You can see over here from the screen only the boot section is visible. And the next process would be we need to set up the Raspbian Pi OS, and we are going to set up without a monitor and keyboard. How do we do that? So let's get started with that. When we get into the boot, we see all the configuration files listed over here. We need to add a couple of files over here. The first one to add is, if you follow the Raspberry Pi website, you would see a file that's named wpa_supplicant.conf file, and this is a configuration listed over here. And I just copied it to my notepad, you can see, and a few modifications would be required. One is you need to change the country code depending on your internet service provider. If your country is US, you just need to provide US, and for the list of countries, you would see again a link here. It takes you back to Wiki, where you type in your country name and keep pressing enter. You see this US. If you are from a different country, you need to search for your country, and you can use that code in the file. I'm just using US, and then my wireless internet network name, and the password would be whatever the password for your wireless internet network. So this is the file, and I currently have it as a txt, and one more file we need to create over here, it's a SSH file, where I would need to establish an SSH connection from my laptop to the Raspberry Pi. So just it's a dummy file. I'm going to right click, create a text SSH, and remove the txt part, and I would say S, and SSH is created. And also you can see the WPA supplicant file is also there, and I need to change the type over here from txt to .conf. So if I go back, I'm just double checking it. It's wpa_supplicant.conf, wpa_supplicant.conf, and SSH files. So we created a couple of files. It's good to go now. Let's power up the Raspberry Pi, add the micro SD card, which is loaded with the Raspberry Pi image, and get started. I have removed the micro SD card from my laptop, and the micro SD card is loaded to the Raspberry Pi, and the Raspberry Pi is powered on now. Let's get started by connecting to the Raspberry Pi. So I have opened up the Putty and given the host name as Raspberry Pi. That's the default host name, and the port is 22. Let's click on open. So you would get some warning message. Just say yes, and you're going to log in. The username, the default username would be Pi, and the password would be the Raspberry. Hola, we got connected now. We need to configure the remote desktop connection. Let's run this command. We can use the cursor keys to move up and down. And I'm going to interfacing options. Let's enable the VNC. And all I'm using is my arrow keys on the keyboard. Okay, the VNC server is enabled. It's for the remote desktop connection. SSH is already enabled, but I'm just making sure. Okay, you can see it's already in S. Okay, so all good. I'm going to finish off this. That's done. Now the next part is we need the IP address of the Raspberry Pi. So if you run this command ifconfig, you will be able to get that. And I'm going to show you the screenshot how it looks. So if you just Google it, you would see that same. And the IP address would look something like this: inet address 192.168. Some address would be coming up. So that's your IP address for the Raspberry Pi. And I'm opening up my VNC, and you can see I have already added my Raspberry Pi over here, but let me show you how to add. Use. So you go to File, New Connection, and then you type in your IP address that you just identified. You can give some friendly name and then say OK, and then your new connection is added over here to the VNC. Okay, once the new connection is added, let's click on and connect. So we'll get some warning over here. Just click on continue, and the default username and password is Pi Raspberry. Click on OK. Well, you are connected now. It's the desktop you see over here. Let's configure it. The country name, states, and the language you select. You can select the time zone. So it's asking you to change your password. I'm changing it now. Already connected to a Wi-Fi, so it's keeping that. And it's asking whether I can update. Okay, it's checking for the updates. And we're good to go. Let's explore the Raspbian OS. From the programming side, it has got IDE for Java, Node-RED. You can try some of the programmings like Scratch, SonicPy, and it has got some Office items. It has got a Chromium web browser where you'll be able to browse your emails and other stuff. It has got some games over here. Interestingly, Minecraft by a free version is there. can see some of the accessories. You can set your own preference, Raspberry Pi configuration. You can enable SSH, VNC, everything from here, Raspberry Pi configuration. And finally, you click on shutdown, you're going to get options, shutdown, restart, or disconnect. We are now connected to Raspberry Pi OS without an external monitor or a keyboard connected via remote desktop. You can see over here, and you can explore the options over here. It has got a lot of things. It has got Bluetooth, wireless. You can browse the web and programming items you can try. Thank you for watching, and please do subscribe for more updates.